Hey guys, I want to welcome you to Breakfast with Banner this morning on this Friday morning. We've got a very special guest with us here this morning. We've got Miss Carolyn Traum, and of course, everyone's very familiar with Miss Traum and all the work she does on the cemetery here in Caldwell County at Cedar Hill. And Miss Traum, thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
I know. We love Carolyn around here. I know she's one of my favorite people to work with around here because she. Of course, if you read the banner, we know that you do. You're watching us this morning. That she does a history of Cedar Hill for us, and we've got a new article this coming March the 8th, this coming Tuesday. So, Ms. Traum, what you got for us this morning?
Oh, I'm very excited. Finally, after 4 years, we have a book called Cedar Hill Cemetery, The Beginnings, and it will be the first of, we hope, 3 volumes. This one took over 4 years.
Oh, wow.
So, and in it are over 5,600 names. And this is not the entire cemetery. That's the first thing I want everyone to know. This is actually from where you would go in at the Coon Gates to the top of the hill. And if many of you know, there's a section called the Catholic section. And it goes to there. So none of the Cantrell edition, which is in front of the mausoleum, is included. And nothing from the Catholic section to the Dawson Springs Road is included.
Right.
I'm working on that right now. Now the big thing is that I got interested in this project because when I went up there and saw the state that the cemetery was in, the stones, our historical marked stones. So this book is being sold by the Genealogy Society. And all proceeds, all monies, there was nothing taken out to pay for the printing of the book. All monies go for restoration of those graves.
Awesome.
Yes,
That's great.
yes. So that's for, may I say,
Yeah.
a donation of $60 or more. That's how you can get a copy of this book.
And they're available to pick up there when they donate?
At the genealogy library, when you go in and donate, they're ready to be picked up.
That's awesome. I know you put so much work in to this cemetery. I know it's a long process, tedious with what goes into it. I know earlier last year, of course, you were awarded the key to the city, and, which was very awesome. And I know for all your hard work that you do.
Well, you know, a lot of people did not realize, they know this is actually, I don't know if they can see or not, but this is what the maps to the cemetery look like. And with Philip Franklin's help, and this book could not have been published without Philip's help. But anyway, they had the cemetery mapped, and they just laid out what you just saw, graves, no names. So Philip and I have walked it and tried to put in who's in every grave.
Wow.
Now we will have some that do not have a stone, and we have some that we know there's somebody buried there. And then by looking at records, we've tried to prove who that is and be able to say that. And we still have a lot that we never could identify. I think Philip and I think, because you know, the cemetery started burying in 1810. So there were not, the records are pretty bad. There are no records. But anyway, and after doing all of this, since actually someone has purchased more than one, purchased a book, and they discovered that some of their family wasn't in here that should have been. Well, when we checked all the records, the city didn't have it marked in their records, and I had missed it. But now it's in the city records. So on the second book, there will be an addendum to say, oh, we left out Margaret. Now Margaret is in. So
I think that's really cool. I know most of my family on my mom and dad's side who have passed away, they're buried in Cedar Hill. And of course, I suppose Cedar Hills is the largest cemetery here in Princeton.
It is, but it is 45 acres.
Wow, I wasn't aware of that because that is pretty. And of course, there's still some open space in there.
Yes, there's a lot of open space. But not as much as one might think.
Right, you wouldn't think. I know many people have, of course, walked through Cedar Hill. Exercising or riding a bike through there, and it's a good place to go. I mean, and you can learn history while you're walking through there. But the history is rich. through Cedar Hill?
I tell the mayor, and I hope the city council is
Right.
listening, that the cemetery is really our walking trail in this town.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I was up there yesterday afternoon, and I could not believe how many people were up there.
Yeah.
You know, I see people with strollers, I see people with their children on the weekend on tricycles, bicycles. I mean, it is just a super place to walk.
It's beautiful through Cedar Hill, and of course it's as you said, you know, a nice place to walk, but it's a safe place for people to go, and it's, you know, just, of course, we've walked through there many a times, and of course we live on North Jefferson, and it's just, you know, just a hop, skip, and a jump away from us to go through there and walk during the summertime, and but a beautiful place, rich with history. I know earlier in the year, last year, you gave us an article about a guy who he won an award.
Oh, he was a set designer in Hollywood.
And it was an Emmy, right? Is that right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, we've got
an Oscar,
an Oscar, not an Emmy.
Oscar,
yeah,
yes.
I mean, it's really cool to find out the people who are in Cedar Hill, who've been buried there, who've either passed through Princeton, who lived in Princeton, connections to Princeton, who are really celebrities.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So in this particular volume, he's actually there. And I might point out that we didn't just list names and dates that somebody died, but we also tried to list a little bit about their history.
Okay.
I mean, not everyone, it was impossible,
Right.
but some of the more, as Philip said, prominent, and I wouldn't say they're all that prominent, it's just what we were able to find on many of them, you know.
Yeah.
So to me, that's the beauty of the book, to be able to then read, because we've listed who their mother and father are.
Really?
Yes, we really tried to do that, and their spouse, if it was at all possible.
Yeah,
you know,
that's really cool, because this has got to be in depth. I know you guys can't see what I'm looking at here, but it's very, very in depth.
Yeah.
What's in here, and I know I look forward to looking at it myself and reading it, because I mean, this dates back. What's the first volume? What does it date back to?
Well, the first, as I said, the first burial is 1810,
Right.
and that's William Prince.
Okay.
And so he's in here,
Right.
and then so we come forth. And of course, the epidemic, the cholera epidemics, 1821, that really added a lot of people to the cemetery.
Yeah.
I think people don't realize how
Yeah.
devastating it was to this community.
Yeah.
It's amazing we survived.
I know.
But you know, we were really flourishing. The history up there tells us, you know, we had schools, colleges for young people. We had doctors very early on that had been trained, not just somebody who'd studied,
Right.
but somebody who actually had graduated from early medical schools.
Yeah.
We had ministers who had been trained up east, you know,
Yeah.
and were down here with the religious movement that was here. So it just really is just a rich history.
I know, for instance, of course, we moved here, my family and I, we moved here in 1981, and of course, this is where my family is from even before then. But just to know the history of Princeton, and you look back at the pictures. I know Rick Blackburn, he's very good about his page on Facebook, looking back on Princeton and the photos that he posts up there. Of course, I love seeing the old photos from when I was growing up, the photos that he posts up there. But looking back on Main Street and, of course, the Collegiate Institute that used to be here, I don't think people really realize the rich history that Princeton has, and very prestigious history going back, you know, to, of course, Adsmore and, of course, the Collegiate Institute and the Butler Building, and so much here for being a Princetonian myself to be proud of, and, you know, to look back on growing up. And again, you know, of course, Cedar Hill's always been a part of my family, and growing up, and many people around here. But, you know, if it wasn't for people like you and Rick and all those who take part in keeping this history alive around here, you know, it's amazing to me to see. And so I'm so thankful that you do this, because I know it takes time. I mean, this is a big part.
It's like a job. I mean, I accept it I mean, I think you have to be dedicated to
Right.
want to do this, and I'm not real sure how I got this crazy drive. But anyway,
well, we're all called to do
The
something. So I mean,
cemetery.
I know I think you were telling us once before about how, of course, you wouldn't know who was buried in this one or who was married, and how you would go back and look at the records and how tedious that was to find out who was, if they were married or what. The headstone wasn't there.
Right.
Tell a little bit about that, because I know that's some tedious work.
Well, I think that one of the things that you come up to a plot, and maybe you can't even, we clean stones, and that was part of it too. But we discovered that, let's say we have a John Doe, and he doesn't have a headstone, but we have now found that through even an old newspaper, I mean, back in the 1800s, an obit, or through some other record, that he is buried.
Yeah.
At supposedly, at that time, it would have been called Princeton, we would have called City Cemetery. And so we know that's Cedar Hill. All right, then where could he be buried up there?
Right.
Well, looking at the oldest records that the city has, as I said, they get sketchy the greater distance back you get. But we might find where his spouse, Mary Doe, bought a plot. And now maybe even we've had a couple that would come up and say it's north of so-and-so and south of so-and-so. Well, if that's the case, and we do know where their plot is, we can go look. And that's with Philip's help. And then we would say, okay, these 3 graves, supposedly Mary Doe purchased. Have these been used?
Right.
Now, some of you may be very skeptical out there of what's called divining. Do you know what divining is?
I do not know what that is.
Well, I'm sure you've heard of witching for water.
Yeah.
Well, there are people who can divine. They can walk over a grave and see if it's a male or female.
Really?
Yes. So I think you have to be a believer.
Yeah.
And so we can do that.
Yeah.
Now, if we were in a more sophisticated community that had
Right.
$100,000 worth of equipment, they could probably roll something over it.
Right, and see.
And so some of you may say, well, I'm not sure about that. But
Right.
So there's enough pieces that we have that we can say that's where that person is buried.
That's very tedious. I know that's
So.
very time consuming. I know it probably takes up a lot of your time doing this, but I know you enjoy doing it.
I enjoy it, or I wouldn't do it.
Right. I know it's like with anything, I guess a hobby and a job, and it's not a job when you enjoy doing it though.
And I really wanted to have something that the community could purchase that would help restore that cemetery.
Yeah.
And if you walk up there now, after this latest winter we've had, I mean, yesterday I was just heartbroken.
Yeah.
There were so many stones that have fallen over. And I know sometimes people say, oh, the mowers hit. No. Stones that are stacked on stones, if the seal is broken where those two go together, freezing and thawing will move that stone.
Really?
And then just this winter particularly, because of the things that we had, and then if any tree branches or anything falls, that will knock it over.
Yeah.
The city is not responsible for restoring any stone up there. I want to make that real clear. You bought the lot.
Right.
You put the stone on it.
Right.
You are now responsible for that stone.
Right. Right.
The city only is responsible for upkeep, and
Right.
upkeep means cutting grass and weed eating.
Right. Right.
And the mayor and all of them know I'm very upset with all the weed eating. I mean the chemicals they use to get rid of the weeds, and they do it because it's a cost saver.
Yeah.
But it's eating away the dirt and undermining the stones.
Right.
So everything has its cost one way or the other.
And I'm sure from the materials that were used back in the 1800s, they're a lot probably weaker compared to today's, not as strong. And so I'm sure anything is gonna, at least a little bit of breeze can probably.
Well, it really depends on the quality, just like today when you buy something, the quality of how long it's going to hold up. Because I've actually seen stones up there that were put in the 1950s that are already damaged.
Really?
Yes. Whereas I have stones going all the way back to the 1820s, 1830s, and they're still there.
Yeah.
So it really has to do with the quality and, you know, some of its workmanship too, but.
I know something we find amazing when we walk through there is the mausoleums and how beautiful they are, and that's something you don't see.
Oh, that brings, you know, was very pleased to hear that the Garrett Osborne, which I'm sure everybody knows, that one, the people who are over Adsmore and everything, it's the library board, they are going to have some restoration work done to that one because it really needed to be there was some leakage occurring, you know. And again, that's just like your house.
Yeah.
If you don't keep those bricks, you know, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the Baker Mausoleum, which to me is the most beautiful mausoleum up there. It has a gorgeous angel out in front of it with a glass door. Well, many years ago, before I moved back to Princeton, that vandals broke the glass in that mausoleum door and the window. And the city did nothing, of course. And then over time, it's been like a wind tunnel going through there, and there's lots of wind up there. If you're up Cedar Hill, there's usually always a breeze.
Yeah.
It has taken the marble off the inside completely, and it's now, the ceiling is beginning to give away.
Really?
Oh, yes. And there are no survivors. There were 3 people in the Baker family. Dr. Baker, who's buried there, his wife, and their daughter.
Okay.
There was no other family members. So there's no one to do any work on that. So that would be a project that I would hope that the Genealogy Society, if we get donations, can look at restoring, not maybe with a marble facade, but even using something that is comparable in today's, that wouldn't be so expensive, but would certainly get the outside tucked, everything so that the water wouldn't be coming in and doing damage.
Definitely.
You know, I made a comment, and everybody looks at me strangely when I say this. What's going to happen? I know that the city won't do anything to it because they have no money, what are they going to do? Wait until those crypts are falling out, and then they have to tear it down and bury them in the ground? I would assume the city could afford that, wouldn't you?
I would think.
They've all heard me, so I'm not saying anything new here. It's not like I'm going crazy.
Right. No, but those mausoleums are beautiful, and I know that every time, and we've seen them time and time again, but every time we walk past it, you know, you always have to stop and look at it, and just the history of how long it's been there. I mean, longer than you or I have been alive.
Yes.
It's just so, it's just cool. I mean, to see them, and you know, people don't do that nowadays.
No.
It's just, you know, a headstone and whatnot. And of course, I know those mausoleums are expensive. They were expensive then, and no telling what they would cost nowadays. But
well, I had someone to tell me that the Baker one today would cost over $100,000 to be built.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
and I don't think that would include the statue of the beautiful angel that's out there. And I'm so glad it hasn't been destroyed.
Yeah, I know. And some of the statues out there are, of course, everybody knows they've seen them before. They're gorgeous out there, and the time that it takes to put in the work for those, I mean, it's just awesome, and it's just the history here in Princeton. I know as a kid growing up here in Princeton, you really don't appreciate the history as much as you do as you get older. Of course, I know you've seen Princeton change a lot over the years, and from the time, you know, I was born to now, I've seen it change so much too, and everything that Princeton's been through over, especially the past year. But just going back in time, knowing that, you know, we used to have a college here, and what was downtown, and it's really just rich with history.
It's rich with history. You know, we are actually, I mean, I know Paducah was a river town, but actually one of the trustees of the original founding of Paducah is buried in Cedar Hill.
Okay.
It just goes on, you know. As I say, I have a saying on a lot of these people who came through here and maybe moved on, but when they died, they were buried at Cedar Hill. And I call them homing pigeons. They come home, you know, to be buried, you know.
You know, that's usually the way it is. You know, I think a lot of people, you know, when they're younger and they graduate high school and usually they go off to college and they start their families, but a lot of them are always drawn back to Princeton. And I know this is where, of course, I met my wife here, and I've talked about that before. But our daughter, is getting ready to graduate from high school and go off to college. But it's just a nice place to live, and you can always go and visit when we're right in the central location of Lexington and Louisville, and especially Nashville. I mean, such a historic place there in Nashville, and how close we are to that. And it's just a good central place to live. And of course, my grandpa Strobe, he is buried in Cedar Hill, and of course, someone that I look up to still to this day. He passed away when I was 19, and he was 93 when he passed away. And someone I look up to, but I love hearing the history of him working on the railroad, because that's what he did. He worked on the railroad, and he was always, when he was still living, of course, he would like to visit the museum that we had, the Railroad Museum, and to see the trolley car that was down there. And so just to know all of this, this is home and its history, and just you being a part of it and keeping all this alive is just so great.
Well, thank you.
Well, we appreciate that, and I know I look forward to reading this book, and I hope you guys are excited about it. I know you are, because I'm excited about it. I'm just excited. I was proud you came in last week. It was this week. It was Monday you came in, and we got you to come on the show, and
I appreciate it.
So of course I know everybody looks forward to reading your article when you have one ready for us, and you're very good about getting them into us. And I've already got it. I'm laying the paper out today as we speak, and I've already got it on the page and everything, so I know it's going to be good.
Well, I'll give a little tease. Okay? The article this time is about someone who is actually buried in the next section that I'm working on now, in the area going out towards the Dawson Road. And I would call that the Nichols section of the cemetery, whether the city does or not.
Right.
Because that land was actually purchased with a trust money from a Nichols, and as they sold the lots, the money was to be put back into the trust for the cemetery. Money has a way of getting not where it's supposed to go. But anyway, so the person I'm writing about is a woman, because it's Women's History Month, and that woman was one of two women to graduate from the University of Louisville Medical School at the turn of the 1900s. So I think everybody should see. Now, isn't that amazing? A woman from this county graduating in one of those early medical school classes. What a incredible thing, And her father had been a doctor, and he had graduated from Vanderbilt. Yes. I mean, so
it's really cool.
It's really cool.
It's really cool. I mean, and to know all this history, and of course that article, I know you guys are looking forward to reading that on Tuesday's paper. And Miss Carolyn, I want to thank you for coming in this morning and sharing this book with us. It is Cedar Hill, the beginning, sections 1 through 19. All right. Well, Miss Carolyn, thank you for coming in. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
And guys, be looking for this book, and it's available now. Is that
right? At the Martin Genealogy Library.
All right, it's available now. So, guys, a donation of $60
or more
will get you this book, and hope you guys enjoy it. Of course, there'll be more to come. And I know you said it took 4 years.
Yes.
To do this, so I know it's going to take.
It will not take as long on the next one, because the research on this one for these early people was so hard to find. The people in the section we're getting ready to work, we are working on right now, starts after 1950. So you're dealing with more current records. So that makes it a little better.
All right. Well, guys, again, I want to thank you guys for spending just a little bit of part of your day with us. And of course, it's Friday, and that means weekend's upon us, and so I hope you guys have a very blessed weekend ahead. And remember, I know you're watching this video on Facebook, so always have your notifications clicked. That way you know when we go live. If you like us on YouTube, make sure it's your notifications are clicked on there, so you know when we go live on YouTube as well. So guys, we always have a backlog of all our videos on YouTube, and you can always go back on Facebook and watch our videos there as well. And again, we want to thank Miss Carolyn for coming in this morning and sharing with us. And guys, have a blessed day. we'll see you next time.